The sidewalks shimmered with the reflections of glowing streetlights on freshly fallen rain. Businessmen rushed past in their tailored suits, taxis honked impatiently, and high-end restaurants buzzed with laughter and clinking glasses. Inside one of those upscale restaurants, La Bella Vita, sat Charles Whitmore, a self-made millionaire in his mid-40s. Known for his sharp business acumen, philanthropic silence, and stone-cold demeanor. Tonight, he sat alone at a corner table, his plate half full, untouched since the steak arrived. He wasn't hungry. His thoughts were miles away, buried in memories of a past he didn't like revisiting. Outside the restaurant, under the faint golden glow of a street lamp, a young woman huddled in a corner. Her clothes were tattered but clean, her hair tied back in a loose bun. Cradled in her arms was a small boy, no older than 5, fast asleep against her chest. She watched the diners through the large glass window, not with envy, but with quiet longing. When Charles rose from his table and signaled the waiter, the woman instinctively stood up. She stepped forward as he walked toward the exit, taking a deep breath to muster the courage she barely had left. As he opened the door to leave, she approached him slowly, gently shifting the child in her arms. "Excuse me, sir," she said, her voice soft but steady. Charles paused, brows furrowed. May I have your leftovers?" she asked, pointing subtly to the plate inside the restaurant. He stared at her, stunned for a moment. This wasn't unusual in the city, beggars, hustlers, people asking for spare change, but something was different. Something in her voice. Then he looked into her eyes. Not just desperation, but dignity. There was pain, certainly, but there was also strength. She wasn't begging, she was surviving. And not just for herself, but for the sleeping child in her arms. Her eyes told a story far richer than her clothes ever could. Without saying a word, Charles turned back, walked inside, and spoke quietly to the waiter. A few minutes later, he returned, not with leftovers, but with 2 hot meals carefully packed, along with bottles of water and warm bread. The woman's lips trembled. "I didn't mean for you to buy." "It's fine," Charles interrupted, his voice low but kind. "What's your name?" "Lena," she replied, holding the child tighter. "And this is my son, Eli." He nodded, then hesitated. "There's a bench nearby. Eat there." "I'll wait." Lena blinked, confused. You'll wait." "I want to talk," he said simply. "If that's all right with you." They sat together on a quiet park bench around the corner. Lena carefully opened the boxes, letting the steam rise. Eli stirred slightly, then awoke. His eyes widened when he saw the food. "Mommy, is this for me?" "Yes, baby. All yours." As Eli ate, Charles and Lena talked. At first, just small details. She had once worked as a nurse's aide. Her husband, a carpenter, died.
And then he did something he hadn't done in years, he smiled. "You know," he said, "I've built companies, hired thousands, given away millions to causes I never visited. But tonight, I think I've finally met someone who deserves more than a donation." She looked up at him, confused. "What do you mean?" "I want to help you, Lena, really help you, not with food or cash, with a future." The next morning, Lena and Eli were driven in a black car to a hotel Charles owned. A suite was prepared, fresh clothes waited, doctors checked Eli, a social worker arrived to assist, and within a week, Lena had a job at one of Charles's hospitals, working as an assistant in patient care. Not charity, a real, paying position. Months passed. Eli was enrolled in school. Lena started taking evening classes to renew her medical license. Every weekend, Charles would visit them, sometimes with books for Eli, sometimes with groceries, but mostly just to talk. The connection deepened. Slowly, a bond formed, not of wealth and poverty, but of shared humanity. One afternoon, as the 3 of them picnicked in Central Park, Eli leaned against Charles and said, "Are you my dad now?" Charles was caught off guard. He looked at Lena, who smiled shyly, then nodded gently. "I can be, if you want me to," Charles said softly. Years later, Lena stood beside Charles as his wife. Eli, in a sharp little tuxedo, held the wedding rings with pride. The media called it a fairy tale, a millionaire marrying a woman from the streets. But those who knew Charles best saw the truth. Lena had saved him as much as he saved her. Because when he looked into her eyes that rainy night outside the restaurant, he didn't just see a hungry stranger. He saw hope, and in that moment, a miracle happened, not of magic, but of compassion. The kind that changes not just one life, but two. Or maybe, three. The end.